Yeah. I think we are recording. We're gonna go ahead and start. Today is Thursday, June 1st, 2023, 10:14 a.m. This is the briefing of the Dallas Planning Commission. Not sure how much of a briefing we're gonna have today, but I think most, not all the cases are gonna get held, so. Commissioner Popkin, cases 1 and 2, are those both getting held?
I'd like to do the briefing for case number 1.
Okay.
Let me just confirm. Is that case number 1? No, I'd like to do the briefing for case number 2. Case number 1 will be held.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We start with case number 2, guys.
You wanted to take a little?
Oh, please.
Morning, Commissioners. District 1,
Online.
Present.
District 2, District 3, District 3,
He's not on.
District 4,
He's absent.
District 5, District 6, District 7, District 8,
I'm here.
District 9,
District 9 is present.
District 10,
Present.
District 11, District 11, District 12,
Present.
District 13,
Here.
District 14,
Here.
and plus 15. I'm here.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with Ms. Williams. Good morning.
Definitely pops up. Good morning, everyone. Our first case on the agenda that will be briefed is C22119. This is a general zone change request. The property is currently zoned a multifamily district, and they're seeking to rezone it to an MU1 mixed-use district. It's just under half an acre, and currently it's just an undeveloped lot that's paved asphalt, and it's currently used as parking for an adjacent general retail use. And they'd like to maintain that. They're renovating the site, and I guess they discovered that the zoning here did not actually match the adjacent retail use. And so they are rezoning it in order to include it as part of their renovation area. This is located in Oak Cliff, or on the north side of West Illinois Avenue, west of Elmwood, and between South Westmoreland and Southampton Road. It's a very narrow property with 49 feet of frontage along West Illinois, and then it has railroad right-of-way to the north along Wright Avenue. We have, as you can see here in the aerial, several uses in the vicinity, including adjacent to the east, we have a multifamily development. And then to the west, which it's currently operating as a part of this site, is that general retail store. So it's a general merchandise or food store called Thrift, I believe. And that's what they are currently renovating and want to continue to use this parking lot area, which is the reason for the rezone. But additionally, the surrounding zoning includes a PD for a public school to the northwest across Wright Street, and then single family uses and zoning to the northeast, to the east across that multifamily district. And then you can see it on the outskirts to the far southeast as well. Across Illinois to the south, we do have neighborhood office district. And there we see a medical office, an SUP for a daycare or private school use. And then directly south across West Illinois, it's an LI district. And we see the Westmoreland station to the southwest and office showroom warehouse use directly to the south. And then there's the CR district that finishes out this triangular block, which is a part of the adjacent property that's being renovated, the general merchandise or food store. But there's also an adult daycare, a church, an office, and restaurant uses. And this is just repeating the same thing there about this being a part of the parking lot for that site. And right now we're looking beyond the railroad right-of-way directly into the school property. There's some portables there along right, and then single-family uses to the northeast. There's where you see that railroad right-of-way that's separating, and you can't really see the single family from this end of right, but there you do see the multifamily that's adjacent to the east of the property. And then the property itself as being part of that parking lot for that retail use, the rear of that retail use, and then the adjacent mixed uses that finish out that CR district. Now we're looking from South Illinois Avenue north onto the adjacent properties to the west, the church use, and this is the Thrift Mart. And then farther to the east, these are these adjacent single-family uses and the neighborhood office district. Here we have the LI district with that office showroom warehouse, some parking, and then farther to the west is the Westmoreland station. This is the development standards, a comparison of both the existing MF1 district and then the proposed MU1 and the adjacent CR district that it's a part of for the development site purposes. That is, as you can see, there aren't very many differences other than the change in the height and the lot coverage. The big use difference, the land use difference is also big, but right now we're looking specifically as to development of the site. They will be required to maintain the side yard setback with a residential adjacency buffer of 20 feet. And then in my case report, I noted that it was 90 feet. I had included part of the existing parking lot for the CR district to the west. The site itself is actually only 49 feet in width. And so again, we have the increase in lot coverage. The dwelling unit density is no longer based or restricted by the lot size, which is currently done in the MF district. So for an MU, it changes. And then the height increase, but they are subject to residential proximity slope at a 1-to-1 ratio. This is a very narrow property that does have the requirements for residential adjacency for a 20-foot side yard setback and landscape buffer to be included in that area. So basically, if you consider it a part of the development site of the adjacent property to the west, that's CR district, in including this site, they're gaining about 29 feet of parking area, and then the 20-foot buffer that would be required of them as well if this site was still used at its current zoning of an MF district. And then for the land use comparisons, as I noted, the big difference between the MU1 district that's proposed and the adjacent CR district is that we're really adding in residential uses, which aren't currently allowed in the CR district. Now, from the existing MF1 district, obviously that district does not allow commercial service, retail personal service, or office uses. So we'd be adding in that mix of uses while maintaining the residential uses that are permitted in that district. And for consistency review purposes, West Oak Cliff Area Plan was adopted by City Council in October of 2022. The plan, it states that this subject property is right at the fringe of the southern boundary along West Illinois, and that this specific area is a commercial center or corridor use that's suggested for the area, which in this area of uses, the regionally drawing commercial uses, big box type of stores, or it can also be to maintain smaller amounts of other land uses such as multifamily, office, churches, and institutions, which is exactly what you see happening on this triangular block. You see that mix of uses, and they're maintaining that, renovating that thrift store, trying to update the zoning for this one narrow lot to properly maintain that whole development site. So the proposed MU1 district does support the commercial center corridor designation, especially by opening the site to potential residential uses in the future. If this site was ever redeveloped to be something larger, then they still have the option to mix in the residential, which of course is compatible with the adjacent multifamily district to the east, provides another form of living, and supports many of the goals in the WOCAP. So overall staff recommendation is approval. We support it because we do believe that it's an appropriate transition from that CR district to the adjacent MF1 district that's developed with that multifamily use. And the size of the property will really limit the future development. while supporting the mixed use nature in this area that's appropriate based on the area plan's vision.
Thank you very much. Seeing as questions, yes, Commissioner Young.
Yes, the thing is, can you go back to slide 19, please? Okay. It's hard to tell from the aerial. Do you know how far it is from the east property line of the subject property to the multifamily structure? Are they complying with their side yard setback?
You mean, is the multifamily use complying with their side yard setback?
No, I mean, between the subject property and the wall of the multifamily structure to the east, do you know how large a distance that is?
Um, I'm not, I'm not exactly sure I'm understanding what you're asking, so I'd like to go back to the aerial if that's okay.
All right, sure.
Maybe that'll help me understand a little bit better.
Okay,
So right here,
okay.
this blue line, let's assume that's the
That
property
blue
line.
line to the wall of the building.
So then the setback for the multifamily.
Okay, and what is that setback, you know?
No, I do not know.
Okay.
I would
Now-
need a survey for that site.
Now, am I right that the subject property part in their required side yard if they screen from the multifamily?
Would you mind repeating that? I could hear other
It
people.
says, am I right that the subject property would be allowed to park in their required side yard as long as they screen the parking from the multifamily? Is that correct?
With the proposed MU district? Or do you
Yes.
mean with the existing MF?
It would grant a zoning change.
Okay, with the proposed MU district, they still have a 20-foot residential adjacency buffer.
Okay, not be allowed to parking. Or would be.
I'm sorry, was there a question there? I didn't hear you.
Yes, would they or would they not be allowed to park in that 20-foot residential adjacency strip?
Let me double check that. With mixed use, it's different. If it was residential, I would say yes. If it was multifamily, I would say yes, but I need to double check for mixed use.
Okay, because otherwise, we're not doing very much. We take a 49-foot wide lot and zone it so that it can be part of parking for a commercial use, but 20 feet of it can't be.
Yes, I mean, that is what, either way,
Okay.
they're gonna have to provide the landscape buffer there. And so at minimum, if they do provide that 20-foot side yard, whether or not they can park in it, they still need a 10-foot residential adjacency buffer, as in a landscape buffer. So it's going to be screened and it's going to have landscaping throughout there.
Okay, so do you need to further check on that, or is it definite?
On the parking, yes.
Okay, if you would do that for the 1:30 hearing, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, Commissioner Young. Thank you.
12:30.
I'm sorry, 12:30.
Yes, 12:30. Thank you.
Commissioner Popkin?
Yes, so just to follow up on that, so the clarity is coming from whether or not they would continue to potentially use the side lot as currently being used as parking for the existing facility, whether they'd be able to, whether they would have enough room to do that, and whether the setbacks are changing. Is that the primary question? Ms. Munoz, was that the primary question that Commissioner Young was asking?
From Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Yes, he
Just
wanted to
to clarify.
know if they'd be able to park in the side yard.
Yeah. Okay. So that withstanding, having talked to the applicant and understanding their desire to have more freedom to add residential along the existing residential, I understand you're saying that there's a residential adjacency buffer. Does that only apply to single family or multifamily or, any kind of walkable residential?
It also applies to multifamily. So any residential use that's adjacent to this MU district, actually not even use district. MF district does count. It's an MF1. So it's considered like lower density. And it does require that residential adjacency setback as well as the landscape buffer. And I'm being told that no, Commissioner Young, no parking would be allowed in the side yard because it is a mixed use district.
Yes.
So 20 feet, no parking with a 10-foot landscape buffer between them.
No parking in the 10-foot landscape buffer. Okay, so then.
No parking in the 20-foot residential adjacency setback.
All right, so only the westernmost 29 feet of this property will be usable for parking for the retail.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And so
And
then in terms of, whether residential were to be built on that easternmost side, would they still need to have a 10 or 20-foot residential adjacency buffer to the adjacent residential since it's an MU district? Are you able to hear me okay?
yes.
Okay.
Thinking about it, it's a district to district buffer that we're talking about. So I would say yes.
So even if they are continuing the built use pattern, because the underlying zoning would change to an MU, they would still be required to have a 20-foot buffer between the existing multifamily next door.
Yes.
Okay, that's good clarity to have. And so this essentially allows them to potentially build multifamily, but also encroach with their existing building to expand on their existing footprint, both on this same parcel, but it kind of limits some of the setback requirements and just changes the arrangement of things a little bit.
Sure.
Even
And
though
then
they may be keeping the same uses.
it's still a separate lot. So I'm not sure what kind of replatting would also have to occur to make it one complete build site.
So it is platted as two sites. Okay, currently, right. Okay, thank you for that clarity. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes, Ms. Munoz, I'm not following the rationale for introducing a completely separate zoning category on this narrow little strip of land, because it would seem to have very limited potential for a separate development. Because with 49 feet of width and the required setbacks, I don't see much potential for introducing residential at this point. I mean,
Understood.
if the intention is to improve the existing CR parcel to allow their parking to expand a little and to upgrade the site and provide the legal screening and landscaping setbacks, this request would make more sense to me if the request for the entire parcel were to be CR, or if they're looking to maintain their current use but look toward future redevelopment potential, the request would make more sense to me if it was all for MU. But to
Understood.
separate this out to part CR and part MU with the requirements for, I don't see that this gets them anywhere.
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Carpenter, and it may look that way now, but in the future, obviously, as that section changes over time, we do want it to align better with the goals of WOCAP. And so the applicant did initially submit this application as a CR district request, and then they amended it after talking to neighbors, after doing whatever work, they decided to switch it to an MU district. What I can tell you is that I'm not going to request that they increase the area of request, although I do understand what you're saying. It would make more sense in the long term.
Yes.
But for now, it is consistent with the vision for the area. And I know that it won't make an impact with this 149-foot lot. Eventually, I think we'll see the rest of that triangular block be rezoned to MU. But right now, this developer wants it for this purpose, and I think it's appropriate for now.
I understand your point. I just, if they're looking at the future development potential of this entire parcel that they own that's now divided into two zoning categories, and
I know.
I agree with you that the likely future is mixed use. It just seems to me it would make, because if they're going to try to do a unified development down the road, it will require another zoning case to put the whole parcel into NU1. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
Agreed. It was more, I feel like a bit of an afterthought on their part of changing the zoning district. It just happens to work out for the future goals for this area. So that's why we were able to support it.
Right. I understand. I wish they'd taken their afterthought a little further. Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you, Commissioner Hampton.
Thank you. Ms. Mooney, your case report notes that RPS applies to this. This is somewhat related to the questions that Commissioner Young had asked. I guess I'm just trying to understand how the parcel would potentially develop with the buffer that's required, with the RPS application, and seems like there's limited area. Could you just speak to how staff had evaluated that?
It's RPS at a 1-to-1 ratio. So we would count 1 foot from the property line going into the site, and then they'd be able to go up another foot. So it's not as restricting as the 3-to-1 ratio for single family districts, which means that maybe they won't be able to do much on this 49-foot lot, but overall, if the whole area does switch to MU, they'll have more opportunities there. So that's why I mentioned that while they do have this seemingly large increase in height, based off of these development standards as we're reviewing them, they do have that 1-to-1 and then the severely limiting width of this lot, which would stop them from being able to do very much. It would be some kind of a wedding cake they could possibly make if they would try really hard.
Well, and I think if I understand correctly, the RPS is limited to 50 feet, which in this case is effectively the width of the lot.
Exactly.
So
you'll see that scale going like this, 1 foot to 1 foot. And I seriously thought that would happen, but I have seen some interesting projects over time.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Popkin. Did I see your hand up?
That was my question as well. Thank you, Commissioner Hampton.
Awesome. Any other questions on this item, Commissioners? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Munoz. We'll go to part 3. Standard, we need to brief this one today. All right.
Was that a yes? I'm sorry.
That was a yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. With everybody in the room there, I'm so sorry, but there's a lot of sound issues. The further away you are from wherever the microphone is, the harder it is to understand what you're saying. So I apologize for not being able to hear you clearly.
If I may interject, we're all having the same difficulty, or I am anyway.
Okay, great. I know when we were doing the Board of Adjustment, we had everybody brought their laptops and, would work it out, but I don't know if it would work. I think it's the room really, because we still use the general microphones in 6ES, and I think it's the microphone in this room that really needs some work. So I really appreciate your patience. And here is our next case. Okay, can everyone see it?
We can, thank you.
Perfect. Z212339 is a holdover case, and this is an application to carve out a new tract within PD 429 to permit a car wash use. This PD is from 1995 and contains 4 tracts currently on about 17 acres of land. And here we have updates since May 18th. There was a community meeting held on May the 22nd. The applicant provided a revised conceptual and site plan on the 24th, and a landscape plan, which was after the publication of the dockets. I wasn't able to share that, but it shows overall the removal of 6 parking spaces at the end of the car wash tunnel, right at the northwest corner of the site along Forest Lane. Improved landscaping is now provided throughout the site, but specifically in that area to aid in buffering the view and the sound of the car wash use. So here's a conceptual plan comparison of what was previously provided. The only difference you're really going to see here is in this corner here, they show you that this section is now boxed out, and that's because that's where they are now providing landscaping instead. So here is the previous development plan that if you saw it in the docket materials before for May 18th, it showed these 6 parking spaces here at the northwest corner, and now we see that they're gone. And here's the revised landscape plan, which overall shows more trees, as you can see here. So a general improvement to the site. And then those 6 spaces are removed and they provide additional trees in that area too. So 3 new trees there. As you can see overall, there's 6 new trees on the property proposed, and then 1 smaller one down here. So this property is in Northwest Dallas on Forest Lane, east of Webb Chapel Road. Here is a look at that little, what is it, like a shoehorn or golf head of this area, which is part of Tract 4 currently. And we are going to make this section into Tract 5. And here's a zoning map showing the adjacent land uses. We do have an R10 district that's located directly across the street in Forest Lane. And then behind that, R75A, it's all developed with single family uses. To the northwest, though, across Forest Lane, we have PDs both to the north and to the south and west. Those areas in PD 308 are largely for commercial and retail uses, and you do see them developed as such with general merchandise or food store, retail, restaurants, and financial institutions there. To the south, we see additional single family, which is all in, it's facing southward though towards other interior streets. But on the property itself, part of the PD of 429, we do have a buffer of a mini warehouse storage use that's south of the proposed car wash site. And then we have restaurant, medical office, additional mini warehouse because it wraps around as an L, and then an assisted living facility to the east. This is the property. It's an old Golden Corral that they're looking to demolish to install the car wash. And the vicinity of those 6 parking spaces is right here where they would be providing that landscape buffer. And this is the interior of the site. So we would see all the vacuums there and the queuing area for that car wash. Now, these are the adjacent land uses on Forest and PD 308. And these are within the same PD 429. Now we're looking at that mini warehouse use and how it separates the single family from this site and all the rest of PD 429. And now we're looking north across Forest to those existing R10 single family properties. More retail sites in PD 308 to the northwest. And this is the existing conceptual plan, which they are updating to show the details. This is what was previously the plan. Of course, it's been, now I've showed you the proposed one in the beginning of this presentation. This is also the existing development plan for Golden Corral, which was done back in '97. And this one is what was proposed before for 518, and I've showed you the difference of having these removed. And that landscape plan has now been updated to have that 1 extra tree here or shrub, and then 6 extra trees through here. They did provide elevations of that car wash, but these are informal. They're not included as part of the zoning request. It's just for you to see what it could look like. And their proposed PD conditions really just add that car wash in the proposed Tract 5. They are maintaining all of the Tract 4 conditions and all of the provisions for development standards and just mimicking them and including Tract 5 with that revised land use. So staff recommendation is approval subject to a revised conceptual plan, a development plan, a landscape plan, and conditions. And they would be based on the plans that were last submitted last week.
Thank you very much, Ms. Munoz. Questions? Commissioner Stanton, please.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Munoz. I have numerous questions, actually. I go to the location of this, because when I read the staff's presentation, it kind of made it sound like right across the street from this site was the shopping center. And would you agree that directly across from this site is Park Forest, single-family neighborhood?
I'm putting back up the aerial real quick so we can. Take a look right here. So this is all single family here, directly across the street north. This is an R10 district followed by R75. This dividing line here is all single family.
Correct. Okay, so directly across the street, whereas, I just want to clarify something, if you were going west where the CR is, that is not across the street from single-family homes, is that correct? It's across the street, isn't it, from another CR district?
As far as being across the street, yes, but it does share
Yes,
a
across
common
the
boundary line with all those single family properties. So they, as you can see here, it's fully developed with parking all along those properties.
There's sort of a boundary line between the CR retail that's at the main thoroughfare of Forest and West Chapel, and when things start moving east and going east, would you agree that what is next, that there had been, let's go back to this, the Golden Corral and the Taqueria next to it, which were both part of Track 4, they had no drive-through allowed, is that correct?
I should double check the provisions, but
I did check them, so they have dining and restaurants there and no drive-through. And then as you go east on the south side, even though it's a storage thing, it's sort of a low-level one, I would call it more a garden type as opposed to a mid-rise type. And then there's a very extensive, would you agree, assisted living campus
Yes.
that goes east.
yes,
And then going to Cromwell, there's been a church on the corner of Cromwell.
a church. Okay.
Yes, okay, so, there's nothing going east that has any kind of what I would call high traffic drive-throughs or that sort of commercial in it across the street. Is that correct?
Going eastward, I didn't really go further than the assisted living and along Forest.
Okay, well.
Going eastward, that is.
Okay, I just wanted to establish that this is directly across from the Park Forest neighborhood. Now, I'd like to go to, the development plan if we can. The
Okay.
one about the car wash. I have some questions about this. Because, in doing my research on this, I went to one of their other locations and went through all the things to see how it operated. And I am confused by something here, and talked to David, Mr. Navarro about it. But I can sort of go over this with you. Because we got a few things happening. We got stacking of 25 cars on the property. And then we have that you go through, I want to go through this. So do you agree? We have stacking of 25. Then there's this hatched area that says keep clear. And supposedly, my understanding is these cars are to travel over that keep clear. And then they sort of go into a split of 3 cars kind of funneling in to going through the tunnel. Is that how you understand it?
So I understand that they're moving in right here where we see the line of cars to come in through the tunnel car wash and then turning right here to vacuum their cars if they choose.
Okay, so now I'm just on the stacking over the keep clear, then it goes, splits into 3, then it funnels into 1 lane.
Yes.
It goes through the tunnel. Now, my understanding when I did this and through the applicant from this development plan is, then when you come out of the tunnel, which faces Cars Lane, it's a big blower, you go through that to drive your car. You turn right to go to the lane of vacuums where you pull into the, vacuum stalls, we'll call them for lack of a better word. So you've got a car coming from the tunnel going in, but you've also got people, and tell me if I'm reading this right. Because when I did it, people were pulling out the vacuums backwards and going out the north side of the car wash to get out of that entrance to the forest over on the left. So you sort of had 3 cars maneuvering in a 27-foot width aisle between the vacuum stalls. Is that how you understand it?
For the 2-way lane there, yes.
Okay, but the strange thing is to me, and it's not clear, and I guess I can ask the applicant later, because when I was at the thing, both sides of the vacuums went out the north way with a car coming down. Because is that keep clear also an exit? So you're supposed to have stacked cars and cars exiting going there?
You mean right here?
Well, the hatched area,
I'm sorry?
the hatched area. It
Down
says
here.
keep clear.
So you're talking about people driving through here?
Well, my question is, either you have 3 cars in 27 feet on that aisle, both all going, one coming south to find a vacuum. And I had this issue, and 2 backing up and going north. And then I thought when I spoke to you, you thought that perhaps the cars were supposed to go out through that keep clear area where the stacked cars are coming in.
This keep clear area, I think we could talk to either the applicant or David about whether or not they can exit through here. I would say if this is a drive aisle, they could. But if it says keep clear also, it's just to keep it no standing there. So no cars can idle there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's for the purpose of keeping the traffic flow throughout the property.
Yeah, I think, okay, just so it's I think I'll have to clarify that later. Okay, then I want to go to something else. Were you aware that we had a community meeting on May 22nd?
Yes.
And were you aware that one of the things that came out of that meeting that I came back with, that the applicant was asked and you as the planner was about having, that if this car wash got approved, they were saying we want buffer sidewalks on Forest Lane in order that we have some sort of walkability since they're developing something new. Was that added into this PD for track 5?
From whom, I'm sorry? You cut off on the end there. You said, was that added to
About
the
the sidewalks. Making
Nothing-
sure there was some
Nothing was
buffer,
changed.
like urban farm sidewalk.
Nothing was changed on the sidewalks.
Hmm.
The applicant did not submit new conditions.
Okay.
They
And
did not revise the plan, as you can see here.
Okay, and so they also, when it came back about not wanting digital signage and having some signage things, was that included in the, PD?
No. No,
Okay.
none of that. No PD
So-
conditions have changed
Okay.
since what's in the docket.
Okay. Now, were you aware that there is another car wash like this one less than a mile away? On the south side of the street?
I'm aware because you let me know.
Answer yes.
Okay. Okay.
I have not
Yeah.
laid eyes on it, but yes, I'm aware.
Yes, on the south side. And was there any indication to you about the hours of operation proposed for this car wash?
I'm so
Did you
sorry.
know
I have
that
such a bad
that
echo.
was 7 to 7, 7 days a week?
For the existing one or the proposed?
No, the proposed.
The proposed one, we don't put hours of operation in PDs, so if that is what they say, okay.
Okay. Okay, so you don't consider that. Okay. Let me just see if I have anything else. I'll let someone else go ahead if they have any questions when they come back. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? If there are, simply-
Yeah, I think I just heard staff say we don't put hours of operation in meetings. I've seen that in several meetings. Since when is that a rule? But I think those are more ambitious restrictions. Yeah, we
If that- If that's a question for me, I cannot understand you.
It was a question about having hours of operation within a PD.
Can you repeat your question, Commissioner Kinsey, please?
Yeah. I have not understood that to be the rule. I've seen that in other PDs.
The best answer to that question
You-
might be that staff is not the only one that puts conditions in PDs.
Right, exactly. So ultimately, if you can see a lot of things in PDs, but it doesn't mean that, number one, staff will support it, and number two, that staff can actually enforce them.
Okay, second question. Where is this other car wash?
I'm sorry?
Where is this second car wash or the other car wash in relation to the subject side?
That's a better question for Commissioner Stannard.
Yeah, that's a question for Commissioner Scanner.
Is it east of the stomach further?
It's east of this sign on the north side.
So across the street.
Yes.
If I was looking at a map,
And you see the library, Brahms. It's going east from Brahms
yeah, there's one very close.
before you get to Marsh. You see it?
And it's busy.
Okay.
And that, I've seen that, car wash. It's crazy busy. Like cars, like.
Understanding. Does anyone else have any questions?
Anybody online? Yes, Commissioner Carpenter, please.
Now, I think my question is for Mr. Navarez. Is he available?
He was.
He was.
He walked out.
I'm sure he'll be back.
Okay, well, I'll ask the question anyway. I'm
Please.
okay. My question is whether there's been any reevaluation of the queuing requirements for the stacking queuing requirements for this kind of use, because in my experience with the short tunnel car wash on Fort Worth Avenue is, while I assume that it has the minimum required number, it wouldn't have gotten through permitting. On nice afternoons and on the weekends, the overflow is considerable and goes west through two intersections. It commandeers the bike lane. It interferes with approach to a drive-through restaurant, a senior living facility, a bank that also has, some competition for space on the street. So I'm wondering if there has been any look at whether or not this number of spaces is optimal. And also if the business is routinely diverting some of its queuing out into the public right of way, what is the responsibility of, to control?
Great questions. I would love for David to answer those, since it's basically, when was the last time we updated our stacking requirements based off of the latest data that's been provided to him? And then number two, it would be, what's the enforcement? I think it's a service call, right? And
Okay.
who comes out to
Well,
stop
I do have another question about noise, because the same car wash that faces north on Fort Worth Avenue, Fort Worth Avenue is configured basically the way Forest is, with 6 lanes of traffic and a median, and then you have, well, we have parallel parking. But the one that we have, there's also a grocery store to the north, so you have an entire grocery store in the parking lot. And then there's a residential neighborhood behind that. And I shop at that grocery store very often, and I walk my dogs in the neighborhood, various neighborhoods with that one. And the noise from that car wash tunnel and the vacuum crosses all the lanes of Fort Worth Avenue, the entire Aldi parking lot, and is clearly audible in the neighborhood behind. So that being the case on Fort Worth Avenue, with the same orientation from where the car wash is relative to the direction of the neighborhood, it makes me concerned for this single family neighborhood that's right across Forest, right at the line there, that the noise is going to be quite considerable. And the landscape buffer that I'm seeing on this development plan that is proposed to help with that looks like it consists of a few trees, which it's better than nothing at all. But once again, the noise potential here at this location seems to be troublesome. Can you, I guess, elaborate a little bit on what consideration was given to that?
As far as whether it's an appropriate use in this retail sort of district, adjacent to the west, which is a shared property line, PD 308 uses the base of CR district, and CR district is very commonly found adjacent to residential districts, especially on busy thoroughfares. So what I will say is that the land use of a car wash is allowed by right in a CR district. And when I did that comparison of the adjacent retail district and the fact that this actual PD, it didn't call to a specific district, but it had several uses that were comparable to it being a retail district. That is what I used to gauge the appropriateness of the land use. Now, the land use itself does generate noise. And for that, I would say the roadway is also extremely busy and generates noise. And it would be contributing to it, obviously, as a restaurant use does, and any other use that brings more vehicles to the area. This one, even more so with the vacuums and the tunnel car wash. I think that the addition that they've provided of that landscape buffer right at the end of the tunnel is helpful as far as for the tunnel car wash portion. But the vacuums, I think that that's going to be something that's difficult to buffer.
Did you give any consideration to the fact that when this PD was originally written, they deliberately excluded car washes from this particular location, from this tract?
I don't know that they deliberately excluded car washes, though, Commissioner Carpenter. I believe that they deliberately included exactly what they wanted to develop. And then they turned around and now they're trying to redevelop this property. They definitely cherry picked a handful of uses, is what it looks like.
Right. Well, I guess you could look at it's like the glass half full or half empty. I mean, by deliberately picking certain uses, they deliberately did not pick others.
Could be.
Yes. Okay.
It could be for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much.
What's your standard and what Commissioner Hampton, first round for you, please?
Well, this may actually be a question for Mr. Navarez, but Ms. Munoz, I'm trying to understand how the site circulation is going to operate, how it relates to the adjacent parcels. Was there any consideration? It seemed like there's some offset drive locations that might pose a challenge for internal circulation. Was that anything that staff evaluated in the site plan layout?
David did look at that and he made comments and they made some adjustments. He could speak to that more clearly.
For those questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanders.
Yes, Ms. Villalobos, I have two more questions. One goes to something you just said when we were talking about the original PD and the supposition that perhaps in the planning, this track 4, had they deliberately excluded anything that was drive-through, i.e. also a car wash, drive-throughs and car washes. And I guess I would ask you this question. Because do you see this site, I'm just curious, if you're planning as an extension of the CR strip center that's an L-shaped strip center to the west?
It's
Or
definitely
it's
continuing
a
to provide,
standalone site?
it continues to provide a mix of retail and office and, of course, the assisted living facility, but it does have a mix of uses to provide services to the neighborhood, with the biggest difference being that it is fronting across the street from a single family district.
Okay, and I have one last question, which goes to back to the sidewalks I talked about. Is it your understanding, and again, we'll work with Mr. Navarez later, but I know that you and I have discussed this, that if we were going to put in buffered, and I'm gonna refer to it as the urban form type sidewalks, where you've got a buffer against the street, then the sidewalk, and then the landscape, that it would make that curb cut area have to be taken away from this in order to do that, to put in appropriate sidewalks that are buffered?
So we're talking about the right turn lane that's provided along the frontage of the site. And yes, that would have to be amended, or a sidewalk easement would have to be provided on the interior of the
So
property.
therefore, would you agree that if that right turn is removed in order to put in appropriate sidewalks, keeping with today's standards, that would potentially have more of a possibility of stacking on Forest Lane, in the right-hand lane, people trying to get to the car wash?
I don't feel really comfortable answering that question. It could be a situation like the Fort Worth Avenue one, especially if there's competing businesses like Commissioner Carpenter mentioned, but I personally have not done any observations and I do not know. I can't just answer that question and say yes or no based off of an experience.
Thank you, we'll just call it rhetorical.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is a question for David, but has there been any analysis done about the interplay between the existing car wash traffic and queuing and how that might interact with the new car wash if it were to be built?
Yes, so we'll have to ask David what he thinks about the interplay of the different businesses there.
We will ask him in the area. Any other questions, commissioners, on this item? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Greenhouse. Commissioners, case number 4 is going to be held in our advisement to June 15th. We're working on the school sports program that on that. And that takes us to the end. Quick note on the 15th, there's going to be a heavy docket. So I'll remind our commission, we're going to keep the briefing and hearing risk in the pocket. So any questions that you get, please, send them to staff, send them to the applicant. I know Commissioner Carpenter.
I'm sorry, we're having I can't hear what you're saying.
We've completed the briefing, Commissioner, and I was just about to use you as an example that Commissioner Carpenter, once she gets that docket, 4 hours later, there's a series of questions that get emailed out to applicants and staff, and so they're all available. So when possible, let's make sure that we do that, especially on the 15th. With that, Commissioners, it's 10:09 a.m. and that concludes the briefing of the Dallas City Plan Commission.
See you at
We'll see you at 12:30.
Are we going to brunch?
I'm not sure.